On the final day of August and the fourth consecutive day of live streaming here on the YouTube channel, here we are to talk about Monday Night Raw, live from the YouTube Dome here on the Good Mike Work Commentaries YouTube channel. How you guys doing? Welcome to the show again. We're here to talk about a somewhat eventful Monday Night Raw. They have laid a lot of groundwork now for Clash of Champions coming up in a month, and we had a tag team split. We had some other things go down tonight. Should be plenty to talk about, and we have a lot of wrestling news to get into before we even start discussing Raw. I did not do a sound check again, so let me just make sure you guys can hear me. I don't sound crazy. All right, I think we good. We are good. We're going to get into some news first. Big news on Brock Lesnar. Big news on Mauro Ranallo. Rey Mysterio suffered an injury, and we have a gigantically huge NXT show set for tomorrow night where they are scheduled to crown a new champion, although I have my doubts as if we will actually get out of that show with a champion or not, based on the match they have. But we got some things to get into first, and then we'll discuss what we saw on Raw tonight. We do have an official #1 contender for Drew McIntyre's title at Clash of Champions. If Drew in kayfabe can make the show and his injuries aren't too bad, he will be defending the title against Randy Orton. We kind of knew that. WWE telegraphed the hell out of this last week when Drew suffered the 3 punts. You're not just going to punt him 3 times and then not do a match. And when you factor in the fact that Keith Lee beat Randy Orton completely clean on Payback last night, you bounce right back and win a #1 contenders match. Like I said last night in the review, if either one of those guys had to lose, Randy Orton could much easier survive and weather a loss like that. Would do nothing to harm the reputation or the level of star of Randy Orton, where it could be a little bit more damaging to somebody like Keith Lee. So it made a lot of sense going into this triple threat that Orton was going to be the one walking out of there, because why wouldn't he be? I almost think like they should have done that and then had Randy Orton kick Drew 3 times next week or something. But once you set all that up last week on Raw, how was anybody else other than Randy Orton going to come out of this thing? It had to be him. So slightly predictable, but I thought the match was actually booked well, and we'll discuss all that tonight. Throw me and shoot me your ratings for Raw tonight. Give me 1 out of 10. Give me a letter grade, however you like to do it. Just hit me with it. I'll try to gauge and get a general idea of what you guys thought of the show. And I appreciate everybody being here already. Good to see you, Bo. And Arnez, I'm doing very well. Tyler, Daniel Rodriguez, and Sunny Man, and Sonic, and Homie Cal, Real American. And Joshua Aparicio, Jet the Hawk, Big J, Barry, How Wheezy. We're all here. We're all in the house. Should be a fun night of streaming, and like I said, it's the 4th night in a row that I've been up here. This week, we got a pretty busy week as well, because All Out is coming to us this Saturday, so the plan right now is to be up here on Thursday for All Out predictions. We're going to do that at 3 p.m. on the West Coast. It's going to be 6 p.m. on the East Coast, and we'll predict the entire show, and we will definitely have plenty to talk about regarding NXT. Because, we're supposed to crown a new champion, and I got to work the next couple of days, so I won't be around to do a live review or anything like that tomorrow night. I'm only going to have to rely on Twitter, so make sure you follow me and shoot me some updates tomorrow as the show is going on. And I'll do my best to give my opinions there, and then on Thursday, prior to the predictions of All Out, I'll fill you guys in and elaborate more on what I think about it and who the new champion may or may not be. So we'll talk about that on Thursday. And then, of course, Saturday is All Out. I'll be up here right after the show to review it. And then as of right now, the plan is for this coming Sunday to do a live stream on some of the best Piper's Pits and Roddy Piper promos. Really fun Patreon-sponsored live stream, courtesy of Jimmy Anderson. That is all the plan. I do have to just say full disclosure. Don't talk much about my personal life very often. I'm about to lose my grandmother. She is very, very kind of close to the edge. So depending on what happens this week, I don't know. It shouldn't affect the schedule, but you never know. Depending on when all this happens, I might have to postpone a stream or something. So just keep that in mind. But don't worry, I'm fine. I am very lucky to be in my mid-40s and still have a living grandparent. She is the last one left, and we've all been expecting this for a while. So just keep that in mind just in case I have to alter something. That's the reason why. Other than that, my plan is to be up here a lot next week, and we will continue rolling on into September. Tomorrow is September 1st. Jesus, the summer is pretty much over now. And since it's COVID, I'm actually fine with that. I live for summer. Summer is like, the only thing I care about. I love warm weather, and here in San Diego, it's warm all the time. But I'm not going to lie. I'm actually kind of ready for the fall, just a little cooler weather. It's been brutally hot here in San Diego the past couple of weeks, and then just in the past few days, it's eased up a bit. So I've been able to have my windows open again and smell the fresh air, and it's like, you know what? I'm ready for some cool, crisper air. I'm ready for pumpkin-flavored shit, and I think it's time. So it kind of feels nice outside right now. But anyway, we got a couple of things to get into in terms of news. Big news today coming out of WWE, but nothing that I think we need to get too concerned about. And we're going to talk about Brock Lesnar first, because I think that's the biggest news of the day. But anywho, want to make sure nothing's happening here in the chat that I need to know about. Yeah, it's all good, man. Hey, I've been very lucky. I've got a very crazy family. I'm actually, my family's big, and I've actually had 4 grandfathers, if you can believe, just because I had a stepdad, and then I had, 2 other grandfathers, and a lot of grandfathers. And so they're all, and 3 grandmothers. And they're all passed now. And, my one is still here. So I appreciate all the kind words, but, don't worry. She's 96. And, it's in the end, it's going to be the best for her. But I just wanted to inform you, just in case I have to alter a video this week. I might have to, just to keep that in mind. I really don't think it's going to affect All Out at all. I'm thinking more like the predictions video or what we're doing on Sunday. So just wanted to put that in the back of your mind. So anyway, let's talk about Brock Lesnar first. By the way, if you could smash that thumbs up button for me, I would greatly appreciate it. We've had some pretty good numbers on the channel past couple of weeks. SummerSlam was real good. Payback weekend was real good. So we'll see if we can keep that rolling here tonight. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe, please. Subscribers are almost kind of getting back to normal. Still not really. They're still way below average. But for a while there, they were stalling. So now to see we're getting a few hundred more a month again, I'm like, okay, that's a little bit normal. So just keep subscribing. I would appreciate it. And we should have some fun this fall in the Thunderdome. Anyway, big news coming out of WWE today. Brock Lesnar's contract has lapsed. It's just kind of expired in the midst of the two negotiating. Neither one seems to be too terribly interested in the other, at least for the moment. So Brock's free to do whatever he wants. I mean, if you're AEW, how do you not at least make a play at him? Vince has got to be very confident, that he's not going to lose Brock to like AEW or anything. And I think Brock has pretty much said he's done with UFC, although this could open up doors for more if you think about it. But if you think about the way Vince McMahon reacted when The Undertaker, who wasn't going to appear in AEW, was just doing a convention that was attached to a weekend of an AEW show, he panicked. And he's like, oh, hell no, get into my office. We're working out something right now. So if Vince gets wind of any sort of offer to Brock, he's just going to bring him back and pay him more. They will pay him whatever it takes. And Brock probably knows this, and Brock is in a wonderful position, and I love it. I hope he takes him to the fucking cleaners, man. Makes them pay through the nose, this company, with all the money they're swimming in. They can afford literally anything. So Brock coming back, I think, is probably inevitable. But, it really makes you wonder. When you saw this news today, I'm like, they put Roman Reigns with Heyman. They're basically maybe trying to replace him. But now, if he comes back down the road, it could be really interesting. And since Roman is now with Heyman, I think the longer Brock stays out, the better. So I think he will come back to WWE at some point. They will bring him back probably next year. I think it should be next year, like Royal Rumble time at the earliest, that we see Brock, because by then, who knows where the Roman and Heyman alliance, what direction that's gone, and he'll probably still be champion by then. And you bring him back and you do some sort of, either a confrontation or an alliance, I think can be really fun. So hold Brock off. I don't think, my gut tells me he will not appear in AEW. I think Vince will just do whatever to make sure that doesn't happen. And don't act like AEW couldn't use him, man. That's a name right there. It might not be a good idea to like feed every single one of their stars to him, because he's not going to work any more of a schedule there than he would in WWE. So I would hope that, AEW would have better ideas what to do with him. He definitely needs to win matches, but just don't have him squash Jon Moxley in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Or 5 seconds, or however he beat Kofi. That's the one thing they need to stay away from there. But I'm sure they'll probably make a play at him, which means he can leverage that against Vince and probably come up with some huge money. But that's one of 3 big names that have been gone in just the past couple of weeks. We had Renee Young wrapping up business with WWE at SummerSlam. Brock is now no longer under contract, and just announced during Monday Night Raw on WWE's Twitter page. Now, I don't know if some of the sheets, I don't know, Fightful or Pro Wrestling Sheet or any of those guys had run this story prior to this. I didn't check. But Mauro Ranallo and WWE have officially agreed to part ways. So that's Renee Young, Brock Lesnar, and Mauro Ranallo, 3 pretty big personalities in that company, all gone. I didn't even think about Mauro, that he was on any sort of on his way out of WWE. Might explain why they brought Wade Barrett in after not having Nigel McGuinness there either. So now you got no Mauro, no Nigel, and Beth's there all alone. Bringing Wade Barrett in to have maybe him with, I guess, Phillips is what they're, or Vic Joseph, I should say, is what they're going to go with there. But that's sad, but I hope it's for the best. Mauro still has not been back on Twitter since, the last kind of episode. And he's another guy, I'm just saying, I know all the fans, the minute anybody leaves, oh, what about AEW? And I know there's another portion of the audience that says, oh, AEW is just all WWE rejects. These are not WWE rejects right here. If WWE makes a play for any of these people, that's a huge get, whether it's Renee or Brock or Mauro or whatever. So maybe it's possible that Morrow could head over to AEW. Maybe he could call their second show if they ever start one. I think that was the plan prior to COVID, to have another show on TNT. Maybe have Morrow be a part of that. I mean, he would add an interesting dynamic to the commentary team if you tried to squeeze him in there somewhere with Ross and Shivani and Excalibur if he ever shows up. And if you get Morrow and Jericho sitting next to each other, who knows what's going to happen? And it might honestly be a better environment for Morrow. We know he's had some problems in WWE dating back to the JBL stuff, and I know he has some, he suffers from depression and mental anxiety and things like that. Maybe AEW will be a little bit less stressful of an atmosphere for him if he did decide to go there, but he also does boxing and MMA and all sorts of other stuff. So I'm sure, he'll be fine regardless, but you at least have to think and entertain the thought of him maybe going over there. And if he does consider his NXT job or just the environment in general in WWE to be stressful, I'm pretty sure based on what we've seen and we've heard from the wrestlers and just the backstage vibe and environment and everything in AEW, it's pretty chill and people are pretty cool and there's a lot less stress. There's a lot less anxiety worrying about that crazy, head exploding boss you have. Might just be a better place for him. Who knows? We'll see. But that's kind of big news and kind of sad news. The Brock stuff I'm not too concerned about, but it's going to be sad to see Morrow go because he's been a big part of NXT and been, the voice of them for quite a while. So anyway, best of luck to Morrow. I hope wherever he goes, he's happy and he does just fine. And it might, in the long run, be best for him. So those were the big three things I wanted to discuss before we got into the results. And also, like we said, tomorrow night, big NXT set for tomorrow. Is it the next two Tuesdays in a row? Help me. Somebody even said one was 3 hours. I don't know if that's tomorrow or the week after that. I don't know. But the next couple of NXT shows will be on Tuesday. Again, I'm stupid. I didn't look any of this up. Dynamite, are we on schedule for Wednesday this week? Are they doing a Thursday one? Because if they do a Thursday one, that means I'll be doing my predictions video right before they go live for Dynamite. So I don't know when Dynamite's going to be this week. I kind of just hope it's on Wednesday. But anywho, that's going to be big tomorrow, and we'll see. And I talked about this in the last two live streams. I'm just a little bit skeptical based on the fact that this four-way is an Iron Man match, and there's 4 of them. How do you not have a tie here, with somebody, with 2 of them at least? So I think something like that is going to happen, and unless William Regal has gone out of his way to announce what they are going to do in the event of a tie, which I don't think he has, WWE's trying to act like there's no way a tie can happen. So I think that could play in, and given the fact that they have a second NXT show the following Tuesday, maybe they stretch it out, but I don't know. I wouldn't do that to the NXT audience. If you say you're going to crown a champ, crown a champ. But I think at the very least, we're going to have to get some sudden death, or something where we get a tie and then Regal comes out like Monsoon did at WrestleMania 12 and says, restart the match and sudden death, next fall wins type of thing. That's the way I think it's got to go there. And what would you guys rather see tomorrow in the Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match? Would you rather see a whole bunch of falls, or would you rather see like a 4-way tie? I almost think both would be interesting. I mean, I think you got to have a lot of falls just to make it exciting and stuff, but, because it's an hour. But, I mean, I don't know if I would mind the 4 of them just going out there and killing each other and nobody scores a fall for an entire hour. And then somebody gets one right at the very end. Might be fun. Why not? Yeah, and we talked about that too last night, Prince. Like, let's say it's Balor and Ciampa each have a fall. Like, they each have 2 falls each. But the other 2 guys don't have anything. So, and then the time is up. It's like, do you boot the other 2 guys out and do the one-on-one with the 2 guys that tied? That's probably what you do. I would think. We'll see. Oh, thank you for that, Prince. I didn't read up on that. All I just read was the WWE article. So Morrow is leaving to focus on mental health, activism, and taking care of his mother. Okay, very admirable. Morrow needs to do what makes him happy, and he saved his money. He can afford to not be there. Do what's best for you, Morrow. Always you first. Divine Ricks, thanks for chiming in with $5. Hey, Greg, so far my MVP this year is Randy Orton. As for the ladies, I have 3. Asuka, Sasha, Bailey, by the way, huge fan of yours. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you hanging out with us. I can't disagree with anything you said there. Randy Orton is pretty much my MVP as well, along with Sasha and Bailey, and of course Asuka. I profess my love to her on a daily basis. So yeah, I have very little to argue with in your comment there, and thank you very much. Appreciate it. Big Show's show on Netflix is canceled, says Barry MK. Really, never saw it. Heard that it was kind of good though. They canceled it. Man, Netflix is getting big, man. They're getting big. Cobra Kai's over there now. Where are you, season 3? Anyway, let's get into Monday Night Raw and start discussing this. So earlier on in the day and over the weekend, they had announced that it was going to be Rey Mysterio taking on Seth Rollins like one-on-one. And it got to be like real late in the afternoon today. I'm like, shit, I don't even have a link up yet for the live stream. So I went over to WWE. That's the only match I saw advertised. So I kind of used that as my temporary thumbnail. But that match never even happened because Rey Mysterio suffered a torn triceps at Payback in the match. So he's out. And they replaced him. Not only did they replace him with his son, Dominic, to take on Seth Rollins one-on-one, that match then became a part of a trio of matches to determine a triple threat main event later. So it was going to be Dominic taking on Seth Rollins, and it was going to be Randy Orton taking on Kevin Owens, and Keith Lee taking on Dolph Ziggler. So those were going to be the 3 one-on-one matches. The winners of those would advance to the main event, triple threat. They would face each other, and then the winner of that would advance to face whoever the champion is, Drew McIntyre, assumingly, at Clash of Champions. So that was what they had laid out for this show. And I kind of like that because if they would have just taken the 3 guys that ended up being in the triple threat and just made the triple threat, you got a couple of guys in there that just took losses, you know what I mean, at the pay-per-view, and fans don't like that sort of thing. Oh, well, they get a title shot if they just saw or whatever. So the fact that they did it this way and forced the people who lost to win a match, a couple of matches, you'd have to win the one-on-one and then win the triple threat. That's better. You know, that's actually, I actually thought it was a pretty good piece of booking, and I really enjoyed what they did in the main event. I thought it went well. Like I said in the beginning, very predictable, but how it was booked, I thought, you know, kept everybody good, nice and nice. You know what I mean? So anyway, the show opens up with Randy Orton coming out to the ring to cut a promo. He's interrupted by Keith Lee. My first real chance to listen, because I tune out entrances. Like when wrestlers start coming down to the ring, I immediately just zone out and I start doing something else. Like I start reading something on the internet, or I go get a snack, or I go take a piss or something like that. That's usually my time to get away. So I never even like listen. So all this time that we know his theme song has been changed, I haven't really been thinking about what it even is in my head. I can't even think of it. So this time I made a point to listen, pay attention to it. And I guess it's not horrible, but man, people hate it. So he comes out, starts talking crap to Randy Orton. Doesn't last long, only a few seconds. He's attacked from behind by Dolph Ziggler, who is somehow thrown into this trio of singles matches here. He's attacked by Ziggler. They fight. We go to commercial. We come back, and we get that one-on-one match right away. Obviously here, this was about as predictable as you can get. Is Dolph Ziggler going to hit him with the zigzag and pin him? No. Keith Lee's going to whip his ass, and he did. Hit him with the Spirit Bomb, pinned him, and advanced to the triple threat later on in the night. We then cut backstage to our new tag team, or women's tag team champions, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. They're both taking credit for last night. Nia's like, well, you know, I told Shayna, she just follows my lead and we'll be just fine. And Shayna's like, no, I told her to get out of my way and we'll be just fine. Did you see what the finish was? You know, I basically just choked out both them bitches at once. And then Nia's like, well, you wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't like beat them up and throw them in the ring for you. So I like that dynamic there. They freaking hate each other, and I think that's great. Asuka comes into frame there. She's dancing around, and apparently she's kind of demanding to know who her challenger is going to be at Clash of Champions. And Nia and Shayna briefly, you know, are on the same page. They're like, hey, this is our time. This is the tag team champions time. You get the hell out of here. They're screaming at each other, and we go to commercial. We come back. We get Asuka in the ring. She's in the ring. Mickie James, she wants to know who her opponent is going to be. Mickie James comes out. So I kind of like this. And I'm like, okay, I'll go for an Asuka and Mickie James match. Sure. And I think if they had them wrestle on Raw or something, had like a really good match, it would be cool. Especially if it was like a hard fought match and they actually gave them more than 3.5 minutes to do it. And Asuka obviously wins and chokes Mickie James out. But maybe they can do the deal where, you know, the loser gets that standing ovation from the audience, although people are sitting on their ass at home. But you know what I mean. I always refer to it, the Chris Benoit Royal Rumble 2003 match with Angle, that type of thing. So I think that could help Mickie because WWE doesn't seem to give a shit that she's back. And if she goes out there and has a good competitive match with Asuka, she comes up on the losing end of the battle. But, you know, Asuka walks away respecting her more. The fans do, and even WWE internally does. I think that would be nice for her. But she doesn't get a chance to speak long because out come Natalya and Lana. And I want to congratulate Natalya for somehow finding a way to make me hate that opening guitar bend of the Bret Hart song. You know, back, 25 years ago, if I would have heard that, I'd start marking out. Now when I hear it, I want to just die. So anyway, out come Natty and Lana. I think they need to come up with some sort of team name here or something like that, because they're both, Lana hasn't changed much at all, but Natalya has. Like, Lana's always been obsessed with social media and kind of, she's just a hot mess type of thing. And Natalya is kind of joining her in that now. They're very annoying, more annoying than the Iconics. They start talking smack. Big brawl ensues with Lana and Natty and Mickey and Asuka. We go to commercial, and we come back thinking, like, we go to commercial, and I'm like, okay, we're going to come back with a tag. It's going to be Lana and Natty taking on Mickey and Asuka are going to, and they're going to kill them. But it was only a one-on-one match. It was Mickie James and Lana when we got back from the break. So that surprised me. And luckily, Mickie beat her. I put on Twitter, if Lana wins this match, I'm changing my YouTube channel into a Chris Lee Knows Best fan channel. We're only going to talk about him. We're going to imitate his accent, and the whole entire channel is just going to be covered in pictures of him. That's what we're going to do. Luckily, we didn't have to do that. Sanity prevailed, and Mickie James went over in that match, Mickey kicking her. What's it called? Chick kick, Mickey kick. Kicks Lana, pins her. That was that. The next match we get is Randy Orton taking on Kevin Owens. Now, I had thought when they announced these 3 triple threats, I knew that whatever the end result here is, Randy Orton had to come out on top. To me, he just had to win that. So I was trying to think of all the ways he could. I'm like, okay, the Seth match, like he could technically lose, or Ray could help out or whatever, or cancel him out or something like that. But I knew with the Owens one, I'm like, Alistair's probably going to get involved here. I thought Owens and Orton would have a nice little match, and Alistair would come in and do a distraction, causing Owens to get hit with the RKO and lose, but it didn't go that way. Owens is making his way to the ring, and Alistair attacks him, beats the crap out of him, and then he's got to get in the ring, and the referee, what's the little bald guy's name? He's in there. He's maybe a little bit better of an actor than Matt Jackson, but not by much. And he's like, hey, Kevin Owens, I can't let you wrestle, man. I can't let you wrestle, or whatever. He's trying to stop him, but Owens, of course, because he's a babyface, is insisting that the referee ring the bell. So he does. He immediately eats an RKO, and he's pinned. So, of course, they jobbed him. I'm like, come on, he got beat up by Aleister Black. I like the idea of an Aleister Black-Kevin Owens feud, and Owens isn't going to go face Drew McIntyre Clash of Champions anyway, so what's the difference if he loses here or later on in the main event? Does not fucking matter at all. And at least it wasn't clean and all of that, so Aleister attacking him I thought was fine. Randy Orton advances, which also I think is very cool to add to the story, because Randy Orton basically got out of this thing without even having to wrestle a match. He hit one move and won, so he's fresh as a daisy. So that just kind of adds to it. So now he gets to go into this triple threat facing 2 guys that had, semi-competitive or grueling matches, but he's fresh, and I like that. There was nothing at all wrong with that scenario, situation, or segment or match at all, in my opinion. Orton moves on. After that, we get the VIP Lounge. Bobby Lashley is introduced as the new United States champion. He comes out looking awesome with that belt. MVP talks about Cedric and, his advances towards him, trying to get him to join the Hurt Business. Cedric wants nothing to do with it. And he kept saying this phrase a couple times, this youthful exuberance. He said, we all made bad mistakes, due to youthful exuberance. And the announcers even repeated it. And I'm like, is that about to be a t-shirt, or is that about to be a tag team name? Like, what if Cedric and Ricochet adopt that name? We are youthful exuberance. It sounds like something Vince would come up with. It's definitely a Vince phrase. 1,000,000% Vince phrase. So I thought that was funny. Cedric then comes out to the ramp. Hurt Business is like, are you crazy? We're going to fucking kill you, dude. And he's like, I didn't come alone. And the Viking Raiders attack him from behind. And we go to commercial. Now, this match was advertised. I didn't think it was, because when we came back from commercial, I'm like, well, shit, we're going to get a 6-man tag, right? And of course we did. But that match apparently was already advertised. I just missed it. So it is Cedric and the Viking Raiders taking on the Hurt Business, and the babyfaces win here. So another loss for the Hurt Business, but doesn't seem to be harming them at all. A lot of people are very complimentary to the Hurt Business. A lot of fans have good things to say about it. Most fans like it. I don't hate their shirts. I do not like really any wrestling merchandise, especially t-shirts these days. I haven't really liked any of those in quite some time. But I don't hate the Hurt Business shirts. They're not bad. Still wouldn't buy one, but they're not bad. They all look good in them. So they took another loss here, not a huge deal, but I like this little idea. Somebody's still got to turn, right? Don't you think Cedric is going to have to join the Hurt Business, or one of them is going to have to join the Hurt Business? Later on, the Hurt Business is going to be involved in Raw Underground as well, because Shelton Benjamin is going to be challenged, I believe, by Apollo Crews in the Raw Underground segment later on. So I don't know. I think something's going to wind up happening there with Cedric. It's got to be Cedric or Apollo. I can't. Ricochet just is too, no, he's not he's too flippy to be like one of those hurt business heels. Where I think Cedric, even though he's very, very flippy, he seems like he could have a meaner edge to him than Ricochet. And then, of course, Apollo, just look at him. If he wants to decide to be an angry beast, he can be one. So I think one of those two guys would make much more sense in the hurt business than Ricochet, especially if you want to start getting in the Raw Underground stuff and all of that. But it wouldn't be the last we'd see of those guys. They'd be back at it later on. Now, the next match up was pretty interesting. Again, another match that I guess was advertised, but I did not see. The Iconics are taking on Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan, the Riott Squad, in a tag team match, and there's like a double stip here. The winner gets a tag team title shot against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. The losing team must split up. So immediately as soon as I saw this, I'm like, well, shit, they're splitting up the Iconics. Ruby and Liv just got back together. It's a new, fresh team. Jesus, we all know how bad WWE needs teams. And then when you think about the Iconics, they've had, over the past several weeks, couple of months, both Billy and Peyton have had some singles matches. Peyton, more than once, and I've even said so on this podcast, has impressed me. I'm like, you know what? She is not horrible, because she's just so pretty and everything. I just assume that girls like that aren't going to be very good in the ring. And Mandy Rose proved me wrong on that too. But Peyton, last few matches she's had, some of those one-on-ones when she beat Ruby Riott, they weren't even that bad. She's pretty good in there. And don't forget, she's with Shawn Spears. So, it's not like she's, has any lack of wrestling knowledge in her world, in her life and stuff. So, and there's word that Vince really likes her and is ready to make a single star out of her. And that's honestly probably the right call. I mean, at this point, the Iconics are the exact same. Even when they won the title at WrestleMania, before they came in and where they are now, they've never done anything except just be the annoying Iconics. And they do nothing for me. They're fucking obnoxious. Billy Kay and that voice and shit, like, oh my God. So I am totally fine with them not being a team anymore. I don't know if you really want to be splitting up teams when you don't have a tag team division to begin with, but maybe this is a case where the Iconics really have run their course. And they've been together a long time. They're childhood friends. From a personal standpoint, this is probably a pretty big night for them because they knew it was coming. The Iconics have always known, ever since they were together, every team knows this, there will be a day when you split up. That's just the way it is. That's just the way wrestling is. For 99% of the teams, I should say. The Bucks and FTR, they'll probably never split up. But, whenever you have a team that both has, stars in it that, you can see on their own, you're gonna split them and have them go their separate ways. So, not surprisingly, the Iconics did lose. Ruby Riott pinned Billy Kay. Now, Billy Kay, it seems like she might be the Jannetty of this group. And I made a joke on Twitter that I don't think anybody got. I think in a few months, Billy Kay should come back and return to TV with a new tag team partner named Brittany Aguilera and call themselves the New Iconics. I don't think anybody got what I was referencing there, but I think it would be a funny idea. And, Billy has got plenty of things to offer as well. I mean, I might hate her voice more than the Right to Censor theme song, but you got something there. That right there is a gimmick of its own. Remember when they used to do, what was that girl's name? She'd come out there and sing horribly. Julian or whatever. Jillian Hall. Something like that. Don't make it too annoying to where we just want to slam our fists through our computer screens, but have her make something funny out of that voice. I don't know. I joked that she should be the voice of Siri on your phones, telling you, navigating your trip. Turn left. All that stuff. I think that would be hilarious. So maybe, Billy has a chance, but it clearly appears to be that Peyton Royce is the one that they want to do something with. And we'll see. And it wouldn't be the last of them either. I had to make it my thumbnail when I saw it because it cracked me the fuck up. Should we talk about it now or later? Now we'll wait till later because it was pretty hilarious. But yeah, I don't know what the future of the Iconics, now will be, but I think Peyton will get a kind of a little refresh there, and they kind of showed that tonight. And who knows? We get another contender on her hands. Oh yeah, Usos won't split either. That's true. Jillian had actual music album too. She did? Oh my God. They sold it like people paid money, like actual human dollars for it? Jesus. That's horrible. Maybe I'll download it later, rock out when I'm driving to work tomorrow or something. Anyway, where did I leave off here? The Iconics, right? Okay, so they're done. Next up, we had Dominic Mysterio taking on Seth Rollins. Now, the entire Mysterio family was here this time. Not only was Angie, the wife, here. I guess that's Dominic's sister. I guess. It's not, unless it's his girlfriend. Pretty sure that's sister and Ray's daughter. they're all backstage watching the match. It's Dominic taking on Seth Rollins, which is just crazy because how in the world is he going to win this thing? I thought maybe he could. I thought there was a chance that Ray could come out there and cause some sort of distraction and allow Dominic to win, because Dominic getting in that triple threat, that's a big match for him. Like, geez, you talk about experience. My God, if he was in there with like Randy Orton and Keith Lee, I think the kid might hold his own. I would have liked to see it just for the hell of it. But I guess in the end, that wasn't going to be realistic. Now, Seth Rollins is still extremely pissed off at Buddy Murphy. He has him in the ring. Buddy comes out with him. He still mad at him and actually tells him to get the hell out of the ring before you don't just get out of here. When you learn not to screw up, you can come back, or whatever the hell he said. So he demands that Buddy just stay out of the match because he knows if Buddy's there, he'll fuck it up. So Buddy leaves. Dominic comes out. And again, really good match when you're looking at it from the perspective of, we got a 19-year-old or 20-year-old kid. How old is Dominic? You know, we got a kid that's just entered the business. I mean, he's fresh out of the womb, you know, and he's in there having matches with big stars like this. He's performing well. They're taking care of him in there, and he's a natural. He really is a natural, and it's just fun to watch him. So again, he's impressive, like always. But in the end, you know, it wasn't going to be realistic for him to beat Seth Rollins unless he had a whole ton of help. And in the end, Seth hits him with the stomp and pins him as the Mysterio family looks on. And then after the victory, he hit him with a second stomp. Now, I immediately thought that second stomp was going to cancel out Seth of the triple threat. Now, I knew Seth wasn't going to go on to face Drew McIntyre anyway, but after he stomped him again, I was wondering if like Ray would come out or even Dominic come out in the main event and try to get some revenge on Seth and getting him out of there or something. I thought that might lead to it, but it didn't. So 2 stomps to Dominic, and I don't know, is now this finally it with Seth and Ray and Dominic and everything? Now Ray's hurt again. Who knows how long he'll be out, and who knows if we'll even see Dominic on TV more. They might kind of keep him in the shadows, have him keep working out, bring him back down the road, or he'll remain a regular fixture on Raw. They might have him do a little time in NXT. I'd be fine with that, to be honest with you. So, yeah, we'll see. Good match. Seth advances. Yeah, that was Ray's daughter. Yeah, I assumed it was. Guess I kind of forgot he had 2 kids. I don't know if she's older or younger. Pretty girl. Ray's got a good-looking family, man. Happy for him. Let's see. What was next? Raw Underground. Okay, so we had some Raw Underground stuff next. And apparently a lot of this stuff, I think, was filmed last week. We heard that a bunch of stuff was dumped last minute. Like, they scrapped a bunch of ideas. They had some stuff filmed with Titus O'Neil and Riddick Moss that didn't air. That all aired here. So kind of cool to see Titus. You know, they showed him warming up. He's just such a beast. And I'm like, wow, Titus is in Raw Underground. Somebody go grab Vince McMahon and throw his ass in that ring. It's payback time after how you suspended him and all that for that silly situation all those years ago. So Titus is in there now. He's going to be taking on some guy, beats the hell out of him, and then Riddick Moss jumps in to take on Titus, and that's what Titus was there for, to put Riddick Moss over, and Riddick Moss then beats him. So they're really building up Riddick as a tough guy. I think that's the point of this Raw Underground, is to slowly build some some diamonds out of this and say, okay, these are the dominant ones in Raw Underground, and now here you go on TV with a gimmick, and you're in the ring now, and you've got a track record kind of thing. So I'm guessing that's what the whole point of this is. And we'd see more Raw Underground stuff later, and it would involve a lot of women. And I like that women are involved in this too. We get a segment that was filmed earlier on in the day, obviously. Akira Tozawa is rolling up to the building in his van, like a minivan or something. Kind of looked like Sue's van from The Best Friends. He rolls up in that thing. He approaches the security guard. And the security guard, what's your name? And he goes, Akira Tozawa. And these are my ninjas. It's freaking hilarious. So he's like, no, you're not on the list, dude. And then Tozawa starts freaking out. He gets out of the car. And you can see R-Truth kind of hiding in the background. So he's arguing with the security guy. And R-Truth comes up and rolls him up and wins back the 24/7 title. Finally, I can sleep at night. I just don't feel right when R-Truth is not the 24/7 champion. I toss and I turn. I have really, really bad, weird dreams. I poop a lot. I just don't like it. I don't feel good. So I'm glad that R-Truth has got his baby back. That made me happy. One of my favorite parts of the show. So he's now, I forgot what they said, 39-time 24/7 champion. Good for R-Truth. I'm so happy. After that, we saw, oh yeah, that's right, Deshaun. Thank you for the $2, by the way. Seth Rollins did smack the shit out of Buddy right in the head. I laughed at that. I can't believe I didn't write that down. That was great. Seth's hysterical. Anyway, next up, we had a tag team match. This was going to be a tag team tornado match. Street Profits coming out there looking like toxic turtles, taking on Angel Garza and Andrade. They get a few minutes into this match. Everybody does their shit, especially Montez. He's got to do his flipping and his rope thing and all that. So once they get their shit in, the lights start flickering, and out comes Retribution. There they are. Where have they been? Now, earlier on in the show, they show Postman Pierce in the back, very demanding on the security team. They've hired extra security. Pretty funny that they've hired a bunch of NXT recruits to battle a faction full of NXT recruits. I find that ironic. But Garza is like, or not Garza, Pierce is like, dudes, we gotta keep Retribution out of here. They screwed everything up last week. They wrecked our main event. That can't happen again. So the lights start flickering, and I don't understand, like, when you beef up security, Retribution still comes in the same way. They still come through the crowd, and they hop over the barricade, and they get in the ring. Like, every time they've come, that's how they've come in. So just guard those areas. Forget about the entrances. Guard the entrances to the arena. Fuck the back door. Let them in. Just don't let them in the arena part. So, like, why security can't figure this out, I don't know. But they hop the barricade. Angel Garza grabs Little Demi, whatever her name is, and he hauls her out of there and gets out of Dodge just in the nick of time. They hop in the ring, and they beat the shit out of everybody else. So Dawkins and Ford and Andrade both got their clock cleans, and then they jumped out of the ring and just ran away screaming. Like, I'm telling you, these really are 8th graders. This segment did nothing to improve my opinion of the Retribution angle. It's dumb. Unless there's some really, really, really awesome reveal here, I don't give a shit, man. And we didn't even see him. Some people brought up good points over the weekend when we were doing the streams. You know, we didn't see Retribution on any show that Roman Reigns was on. They weren't on SummerSlam when he showed up. They weren't on SmackDown, and then they weren't on Payback, right? So now they're back on Raw. Maybe they're having, maybe that's who they're targeting. They're targeting Monday Night Raw. But they've also been on SmackDown and done a bunch of stuff there. So I don't know. This might all be playing into whoever's in charge of them. I don't know. But it's just weird the way they come in. They just beat up a bunch of guys, and then they run away, and that's it. And I think later on, they did come face-to-face with Garza and the girl, right? Backstage. Did they beat him up? I forgot. I just remember they came through the door beating up some dude, and Garza and What's-Her-Face are standing there, and then I forgot what happened. But we did see that. Now, we got to talk about the leader. Here's one thing, and I got to shout out. I forgot who it was. I tried to quote your tweet, but you had protected tweets, so nobody could see it if I posted it. But somebody said, was like, F it. Make Adam Pearce the leader of Retribution. That's not a horrible idea. They could all reveal themselves to be mailmen. It could be a faction of mailmen. You could bring in, like, Newman as the J.J. Dillon of the group. How great would that be? But no, in all seriousness, they wouldn't all be mailmen. But Pierce would kind of make sense, because after they attacked, did you see how mad he got? He was backstage yelling, oh my God, his face was all red, and he's freaking out and stuff. I think he'd be a good leader, and plus Vince put him through the ringer. Vince put him in a real tight spot on SmackDown, maybe making him go get contract signed signatures from all these guys that could all kill him. Maybe it's, and he's one of Vince's right-hand men. He is in charge of 205 Live. Apparently, I don't know if they'd work that into the storyline or not, but maybe if they're ready to give him more of a role. Can he wrestle anymore? I don't think so. But in terms of like a mouthpiece or a leader, hell yeah. I'd love to see more of him on TV. So I don't hate that idea whatsoever. I don't even hate the idea of maybe him at least being involved in it, which would explain a lot why they continue to get into the building. He's got this front, like he's trying to, he's trying to protect Raw, but in the end, he's kind of in on it. So, I mean, as dumb as Retribution is, like, what, it can't get any worse. Everybody likes Adam Pearce, so I don't know why that would be such a horrible thing. Why not? Let's do it. What do you guys think about that? Any more ideas? Like, are we getting any closer to having any better ideas of who might be leading this entire faction? I mean, I like the Roman ideas. I just don't think it's necessary. If Roman's with Heyman, that's just what he needs to be doing. You don't need to add any shit to that. But I do think it's interesting that they weren't on the show that he was on. Maybe they know because he'll kill all of them. Because, I mean, at some point, if they do interfere in a Roman Reigns match, it would be like them interfering in a Brock match. Brock's like, bring it on. I'll kill all of you. I don't give a shit. Even the girls. I'll F5 every one of you. So, maybe Roman could kind of have that same attitude, and they're just going to steer clear from him. You know what I mean? Don't know. We'll see. We cut back then to the Raw Underground, and now we got some women in here. Now, Jessamine Duke she was shown warming up earlier on. She's gonna have like her first fight. Her and Shafir were already in this a couple weeks ago, right? And man, I'll tell you, I liked it. Like, she's not bad. Her strikes look pretty good for for kayfabe punches and shit. And they've been with WWE now for so long, and and every time we've seen them, they've given us this feeling of like they're not quite ready for prime time type of thing. But how can they get worse? Like, they have to have been improving during this time in a developmental. And I think this is a great way to introduce them. So Jessamine beats the shit out of some girl rather quickly, continues to beat her up, like kicks her out of the ring after the fact, and some other girl got in her face, and then Marina came in to back up Jessamine Duke. And then for some reason, this is great, for some reason on the outside of the ring, during all this, they've got Shane McMahon there with both of the Iconics, and they're both like crying because they've got to be like, they're broken up now, and Shane's like, come on, the future is what it is, and we should be happy and we should be celebrating. Come on, girls, cheer up, snap out of it, type of thing. And then Peyton grabs a hold of Billy and throws her in the ring, just right into the slaughter there for these two lions, Jessamine and Maria, to jump on her and just beat the shit out of her. And then Shane McMahon kind of turns to the camera and he puts his arm around Peyton Royce. An amazing visual. I made it my thumbnail. I'm like, and she's kind of like, she's making this like creepy ass face. I have no idea what that means, but I thought it was hysterical. It was out of nowhere. I didn't expect to see the Iconics of all people hanging around in the Raw Underground, and it was just weird, so weird. So anyway, Raw Underground was kind of a hit this week because we saw all sorts of weird things, and poor Billy Kay got destroyed. And then after that, we'd have to see the Hurt Business show back up at Raw Underground, and it was going to be Apollo versus Shelton Benjamin. And did Shelton beat him? What the hell happened there? I know everybody jumped in. Lashley got involved there. Ricochet, Cedric all jumped in. It was basically like a six-man brawl, and the Hurt Business got the better of them, beat the crap out of all of them, and left all three of them laying. So the Hurt Business continued to dominate Raw Underground. But I think the image for me of the night was Peyton Royce sitting there with Shane, the Underground set with a funny-ass smirk. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Fun stuff. All right, let me cruise over here to the chat, get this caught up. What did Shane say on Raw Underground? Raw on the ground. That's funny. I mean, I know he's talking smack. He said something. I don't remember. I don't listen, man. You're lucky I even know what I know here, because it's really hard just to give Raw my undivided attention. I'm always doing other stuff, picking my nose, eating, that sort of thing. Yes, Zane, we talked all about Brock Lesnar in the beginning, so just scroll back a bit after you're done listening to this, and you can hear it at the beginning there. Yeah, I couldn't remember what it was with Pierce that was keeping him out of the ring. So yeah, but he doesn't need to be in the ring. He could always just be, the leader, the mouthpiece. He's a good talker. Oh, Shane says Retribution. Okay. Shane could be behind it. Why not? I don't know what the motive is, though. I mean, it could be, maybe this is Shane's plan to take over WWE from like two different angles. He's got this Raw Underground where he's just building and breeding killers, and then he's got Retribution coming in, wreaking havoc, and maybe he's trying to get WWE so off balance that, bam, then he strikes and it's all revealed. I like that idea. I can see how it would work. He might have some retribution to get. They could tie all sorts of McMahon family shit into that. Dad, you picked Hunter over me. Once he married Stephanie, he became your son and you forgot about me, and I was gone from the company for 9 years. And, and then when I came back, you still weren't treating me like the son I should be and the true heir apparent to this company. So I decided to take retribution on you and infiltrate and take over the company in my own way, forcefully and methodically, kind of thing. Maybe. I don't know if they do it exactly the way I laid out, but I think you could take that basic idea and play with it. For sure. Why not? Okay, Ryan, I haven't caught any NBA scores, so AEW on Wednesday will go up against Game 7 in the NBA. What series is that? Is that the Denver and Utah one? I forgot. What the fuck? I know LA wrapped up their business with Portland. Really cool to see LeBron and Melo going at it. And Portland won Game 1. I was at work watching that. I'm like, holy shit, Portland beat LA in the first game, and then they swept them after that. So, interesting. Rest in peace to John Thompson, famous longtime coach of the Georgetown Hoyas. He passed away yesterday. I have a lot of memories of him because I was a big basketball fan growing up as a kid. And even though I didn't like the ACC teams, I grew up in Tar Heel country. So I was surrounded by Duke and Carolina fans. And, everybody there really respected John Thompson, And, of course, in the 82 title game, it was Carolina and Georgetown, Michael Jordan and James Worthy on one side, Patrick Ewing on the other, before the three-point line even existed back then. And Jordan hit the game winner, and Carolina won by 1 in the national championship game. And then like a couple years later, Georgetown and Ewing, after Jordan had gone off to the NBA, would win their own title. And he was there many years, 30 fucking something years, something like that. He was there. So sad loss. He was a legend, man. Oh, Houston and OKC. Okay, gotcha. I've only been eyeballing. I've watched a little bit of the NBA bubble, a little bit. I like their Thunderdome maybe a little bit better. It seems like they might all be in front of green screens or something because it looked like they were all kind of had the same background. But it's just hard. It's hard to care. It's just like wrestling, it's really hard to care. I don't have a basketball YouTube channel, so I find myself not really watching. I'll look at the scores, and I'm going to be interested to win this, who wins the title. But, given what happened to Kobe Bryant at the beginning of the year, like I really wish we had an audience there. I just think it would have been so great if but if the Lakers could win the title at home at Staples for Kobe, I think that would have been just a phenomenal moment. But we can't get that now. They can still win. They probably still will, but it's just different. They're all in one spot, and, it sucks. All right, where did we leave off on Raw? I got the Jessamine Duke stuff. Oh, yeah, I guess it's just the main event, right? That's all we have left to talk about. Seth Rollins, Keith Lee, Randy Orton, all of those guys won respective singles matches earlier on in the night. To get this triple threat, the winner will face supposedly Drew at Clash of Champions, assuming his fractured skull and broken jaw is okay, which I'm sure it will. The kayfabe fairy will come down and clean that up for him, and he'll be taking on the winner of this thing. Now, I had said earlier on, the minute they made these matches, I'm like, oh, everything's pointing to Orton here. That makes a lot of sense why he lost last night, because he can just turn around and win this triple threat, and it's, it accomplishes two things. Gives Keith Lee a big win over a major star, and also doesn't damage that star whatsoever at the same time, because he turns right around, wins 2 matches the next night. Now he's facing Drew. Now, the only problem with this is everything they did last week. He kicked Drew McIntyre 3 times. Why the fuck is he not going to win this match? I saw a few people surprised. Wow, I'm surprised it won Keith Lee. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense right now because the story is with Orton and McIntyre. Now, McIntyre and Lee, I think, is an intriguing match because they're buddies. They'll probably go there at some point, much like they did Dominic and Keith Lee in NXT. But for now, you don't kick a guy's jaw off and not have a match with him. So obviously, Orton's going to have to worm his way. And then he had that really easy victory over Kevin Owens when Aleister Black attacked. So this was it. Orton was coming out of this thing regardless to me. And I was like, yeah, there's no way. And plus, Lee, I don't think, would win 2 times in a row like that, especially given what Orton did to McIntyre. The only thing I was maybe thinking is like Lee would win the match, and then McIntyre will be like, look, you're my friend, Keith. I ask a big favor of you. Let Randy Orton have your match. Let him challenge me for the title. Let me beat him and kill him first. And I promise you have my word that immediately after that, you get the very first shot. But I can't concentrate on you until I deal with Orton. And then maybe Lee's like, okay, or whatever. I thought maybe they could do that. This was much better. And, the match was pretty good. It's really cool to kind of see Orton and Seth working on the same page again, shades of the Authority and all that stuff. So that kind of brought back some memories, but it didn't last. And Seth should have known fucking better because Orton, of course, turned on him and nailed him. In the end, good finish here. Excellent booking of the finish, I think. Keith Lee hits the Spirit Bomb on Seth Rollins, and then you see Orton slither in the ring. And I'm like, oh, Orton's going to RKO Keith Lee and pin him. Kind of a receipt from last night or whatever. And that's exactly what happens, sort of. Orton runs in the ring, RKOs Keith Lee, but then dives over Keith Lee onto Seth, who just took the Spirit Bomb, and pins him instead. Perfect. You got out of this. How WWE managed to get out of this situation alive, I have no idea. I thought they were screwed just having Lee and Orton face each other to begin with, because I'm like, man, don't beat Keith Lee already. And then at the same time, Orton is in the middle of a title program, so how can you beat him? But they figured it out. Lee won in dominant fashion, beat Randy Orton completely clean at Payback. And I said last night, Orton's a guy with his legacy and his 15 world titles or whatever it is. He can survive a loss like that easily. Does nothing to him. We'll forget about it tomorrow. Where if Keith Lee takes the loss, that could be a lot more damaging considering how WWE handles all of the NXT talent that is brought up. Every time they do, the magic they had and the dominance they had and the vibe they had in NXT is completely murdered when they get to the main roster. So the fact that they didn't do that with Keith Lee and then turned around here, had him win his one-on-one, but then in the triple threat, he doesn't take the pin. Everybody got out alive. We got out clean. That's good. So now Randy Orton gets the title match against Drew. And then for people who say, well, he just lost, how's he get a title match? Well, he didn't just lose. He won 2 matches on the same night to earn this opportunity. That settles that little issue. And it doesn't do anything to harm Keith Lee now. He can go on to still, feud with Randy Orton, I suppose. They'll probably have a lot to do with each other on TV, I would assume. Because if these injuries of Drew are as serious as they say in storyline, then he probably will not be back. I said seriously, and Siri thought I was talking to her. Easy, girl. I don't need you. So if all of that is to be believed, then he shouldn't be back, at least not next week, and he should be off for a little while longer. And we should get Lee and Orton, I guess, maybe having some more battles or some more tag team stuff or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what I do with either guy next week. I might put Keith Lee just in a match with somebody else, or somebody random, have him beat him or something, and then have Randy Orton come out and RKO him or whatever. But at least give Lee another match against somebody and have him win, I guess. That's what I think. But now it's set. Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre again. Not surprising. Saw a couple of people, why are they doing this match again? McFly, when is there ever like a one-off? It's extremely rare. Like anytime there's a title program, especially on Raw prior to Keith Lee's arrival, Drew McIntyre didn't have any challengers. And Randy Orton is a big-time challenger. I don't think you just do that match and then be done. And given the finish of SummerSlam, we didn't get a Claymore. We didn't get an RKO. We got a backslide. And then on Raw, we got 3 punt kicks. Of course they're going to do this match again. Are you blind? So to me, that's not even surprising in the least. Even prior to the punt kicks, even at SummerSlam, even before the match at SummerSlam happened, I said we're probably going to get another one. Because if Orton wins, we're definitely going to get another one with McIntyre getting his rematch. And then if McIntyre wins, they'll probably book the match in such a way to where Orton can attack him the next night or whatever. We knew that it was going to go more than 1 pay-per-view. And I have a feeling that there's a real good chance it could go 3. I think the blow-off might be Hell in a Cell. Because by then, think about it. Like if you have the match with Orton at Clash of Champions and then Drew just beats him, how do you get Drew in another match that quickly that would warrant a Hell in a Cell? Not that it has to be in the cell. It doesn't. But when you look at all of the programs and the feuds right now, I suppose you could put Roman in there against Strowman or whatever, but all the heat and everything seems to be with McIntyre and Orton, considering Orton's put all those guys in the hospital bed. He showed that on the screen, by the way, of all the guys like Flair and Edge and Christian and who else? Drew and one other one, Shawn, all in hospital beds there. It was funny, but it wasn't as funny as Chris Benoit as a blushing bride on Raw by Chris Jericho. But I don't know what else. I don't know what else would warrant a cage or a cell match. And I think you could definitely do one with the women for sure as well, especially if something happens with Sasha and Bayley, and Sasha demands a Hell in the Cell match with Bayley. That would not be bad. Sasha versus Bayley, Hell in the Cell. I'm totally into that. Especially if you now book, because you got 4 weeks of TV. So whatever we see on Friday, the fallout from them dropping the tags, we could see them finally implode or a challenge be made for Clash of Champions where Bayley has to defend against Sasha, and then maybe Sasha beats her, and then maybe Bayley's pissed, and then they have the blow off in the Hell in the Cell, and finally, for the first time in her life, Sasha Banks actually successfully defends a women's title by beating Bayley in the Hell in the Cell, and then moving on to be champion, and then maybe a split them in the draft right after that, something like that. So I think we'll get 2 cell matches, and one's gonna have to be one's gonna at least one's gonna be a men's, and one will be a women's, I'm sure. Did we get 3 last year? That one year we got like Orton and Hardy. Is that the same one as Seth and The Fiend? I don't remember what the other one was. WWE killed that concept last year with that match with Seth and Bray. But we'll see. I kind of feel like not only are we going to get 2 matches out of Seth and Drew, we're going to get 3. You cracked a guy's skull. Of course you got to fight him in the Hell in the Cell. You can't just let that shit slide, man. Hell in the Cell is in November. I always think it's October. What's the October pay-per-view? I don't even want to know. WWE pay-per-view schedule. Oh, yeah, November 1st. Well, that's the next one, according to this I have. That's good. There's a whole nother month against a pay-per-view then. Yeah, September 27th, Clash of Champions. November 1st, Hell in the Cell. November 22nd, Survivor Series. 21st, War Games. Yeah, and that 22nd, that's what we wanted. That's the date. That is the 30-year anniversary to the day of The Undertaker's debut. They absolutely have to have something happen on that show for him, even if it is in the Thunderdome. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, Hell in the Cell. You can build that for a month. Yeah, I agree. The red cell's gots to go, but it ain't. I don't think WWE's going to get rid of it. Everything must look like a toy for them. Has Retribution attacked Rollins? I don't know. I don't think so. Now he's going to be in charge of two factions, the Messiah and Retribution. The Monday Night, the Retribution Messiah. I don't know how you'd combine that at all. Might be a little convoluted to involve him, but, he does have that, cult leader gimmick going on right now. So I suppose that he could at least be in the conversation to be the leader. Yeah, there is no pay-per-view for October. That's so dumb. They should do a Halloween Havoc. How are you going to have 2 pay-per-views in 7 days and then also 2 pay-per-views in 5 weeks? That's so crazy. But that's good. Like, I'd rather keep them a month apart. I don't want them on top of each other. And that's just the way it worked out. Like, Hell in the Cell is November 1st, so technically the day before is October. So it's not like it's way. You get Clash at the very, very end of September, and then you get Hell in the Cell the very, very beginning of November. October just kind of got left out by accident. It's the way it goes sometimes. Just the way the dates match up and stuff. Oh, yeah, good. We talked about that last night. Anthony Manzano asks, do I think WWE will continue the JBL and Keith Lee storyline that was, or was that a one-off? I don't know. I expressed confusion in that as well because I didn't understand what I was looking at. JBL comes in there with his stupid hair and a stupid face, and he's trying to offer Keith Lee some financial investment or something. And Lee's like, and he says it's $1 million. Lee's like, I ain't got $1 million, dude. Get that out of here. And then that's it. So are they really they can't put these two together? Somebody mentioned last night, well, JBL's going to be his manager. God, what an awkward pairing. Keith Lee, have you noticed? I guess I noticed this in NXT, but it feels more pronounced now. What is going on with the way he cuts promos? He's talking all soft and spoken, just weird sounding or whatever. Almost sounds like a parody in some ways. So I don't understand his promo style. And JBL is extremely the opposite of that. He is a loud-mouthed Texan. He's a loud, obnoxious person that never shuts the fuck up and and all that. So to put him with Keith Lee would just be a weird alliance, wouldn't it? They don't match to me. That makes no sense. I don't know why they would even do that. Lee, even though I think his promos are odd, I don't think he needs a mouthpiece. And if he does align himself with JBL, he's going to have to go heel. He's going to have to go heel. And he's going to have to be the client of JBL. Yeah, JBL's client versus maybe Paul Heyman's client one day. Might be fun. So the only way that would work, in my mind, is if you transform Lee into the silent monster with JBL talking him up in every promo. Otherwise, why did they even do that segment? What was the point? They wouldn't have done it if it's not going to mean something. Well, actually, that's a lie. They do plenty of things that don't mean anything. But why even go through with that if it wasn't going to? Unless it's going to be maybe JBL is they're starting an angle for JBL. Maybe it has nothing to do with Lee and JBL. Maybe they're going to do a thing. Well, I guess if they would have done that, we would have seen it tonight on Raw. But maybe it's a deal where JBL is approaching various wrestlers. Keith Lee just happened to be the first one and had nothing to do with him specifically at all. And he's approaching various wrestlers for these investment opportunities. And then finally he finds some to agree to it. Maybe he's building a faction. That might be it. Now, if that's the case, then it makes sense that Lee was like, no, get out of here. I got no interest in you or whatever. And JBL's just kind of hitting up everybody. So that could be JBL as a manager and a leader of a faction. Okay. I don't hate it. I hate him, but I don't hate that idea. Yeah, do it. I'd be fine with that. So yeah, no issues here if they want to have JBL start a faction. We're seeing that. We're seeing some factions. We got Retribution, and now we got the Hurt Business, and we got Cedric and his little group, and maybe we're going back to 1997, and we're going to have gang warfare again on Monday Night Raw. And maybe the Bariquas and the DOA will get involved in this. Who knows? How is that a heel act? JBL is a wrestling god? It's hysterical. Okay, maybe. Yeah, Victor's right now. If it's APA JBL, but it's not. We saw it was douchebag JBL. That's who approached him. Now, if it's APA JBL, then I think he does fit a little bit better with Keith Lee because APA JBL's cool. But this JBL is a just raging, enormous Empire State Building sized douche. And we don't want him anywhere near our TV. Do we? Do we, guys? That could be it too. I mean, JBL didn't seem to take. Prince says they could have JBL recruit a guy to attack Lee because he refused to join. It would have to be more segments to do that. Like JBL, I think would have to approach Lee again, and then Lee's gonna be like, "Dude, I already told you." Kind of basically do the same thing that Cedric is doing with Apollo, or with what's his name, MVP. But JBL didn't seem to be too upset when Lee declined his offer, right? When he just like, okay, see you later kind of thing. So I don't think that like enraged JBL or made him feel disrespected in any way. If anything, he disrespected Keith Lee by just assuming the dude's got $1 million laying around. He's like, dude, you're crazy? I don't have that kind of shit. So JBL would have to get a lot madder, I think, to go out and recruit somebody to take down Keith Lee, but that could work too. That could work too. But JBL and Lee being involved in any sort of alliance, to me, is hard to envision. Not that they can't do it. It seems completely odd and out of nowhere. So I can think of a million better guys to put Keith Lee with than JBL. Oh, what do you want me to read, Anthony? Oh, yeah. Well, we've talked about kind of that stuff, too, that, this could be a faction of NXT guys that have kind of done what they kind of ran their course in NXT, don't really have much anywhere else to go. And then if you just bring them to the main roster, they're invisible. And guys like that, like Shane Thorne, who've already been on TV, right, on Raw a couple times. And Dominic Dijakovic, which we've heard is going to be being moved up to the main roster. Didn't they even run a vignette for him? I forgot. And Keith Lee and Dexter Lumis, who's been out with his injury. He was supposed to be in that ladder match, and we haven't seen him in a while. So he seems like a loner, though, Dexter. I don't know if he'd be a part of this, but if it is just a group of those type of guys, I suppose. And if you have Keith Lee collab in there with Dominic Dijakovic, they are boys. They are homies. So that could all tie in. I think so. I think it's a possibility. There's definitely going to be like an NXT vibe to that because, there's talk about Mia Yim being in there. We've seen her. She's been recognized. There's more than one woman in there. And that just seems like what it's going to be at this point. It's just going to be NXT talent. What's their motivation? What do they have to get retribution for? If anything, they're on their way up. Their careers are growing. They haven't been shit on yet. Retribution is something that should happen after they've been on the main roster for a couple of years and WWE's done dick with them. Then they get mad. Then they go and form a faction and come kick everybody's ass. That's what it should be. Thanks for the $2, How Wheezy. I don't know, man. I got to give some thought on who JBL should manage. I just got to stare at WWE's roster. I'm like, oh, he'd be okay. He'd be okay. I don't know. Riddick Moss is that's a good one by Prince because you can tell Riddick Moss is going to come out of this Raw Underground thing with a push. So they bring him to TV, start putting him some matches because before he's been boring. Wasn't he with Mojo? Didn't he do some stuff with Mojo or whatever? So they're trying to put him over as a badass. And if JBL wants to start a faction of badasses, he should knock on the door of Shane McMahon and be like, hey, can I have some of these badasses? That could work. Hell, maybe Shane builds a faction. I don't know. Is anybody going to turn on Shane? I like this idea of Shane being the leader of Retribution, too, that we talked about earlier. But is anybody ever going to come in and attack Shane? Is Shane going to Raw Underground anyone? Like, is he going to get into the end of the ring and throw down? He's done it before. He likes to fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Shane eventually finds his way in there with somebody. Maybe like a JBL. Maybe JBL and Shane fight for control of the Raw Underground. I think earlier I called it Hurt Business. Yeah, I forgot about Mojo, too, until I saw him on that 24 special the other night. My God, we talked about it the other night, but what a pussy Gronk is. That was the easiest fall. My grandma could do that, man. You fall, 10 feet onto that crash pad? Vince did it like it was nothing. Like, how in the world can this guy who is on the football field, on the gridiron, as a tight end, getting smashed in the face on a weekly basis? I'd rather jump off a 10-foot landing onto a crash pad than be smashed in the face on the football field. Why was he so apprehensive to do that? My God, this big, bad machismo guy. Here you got little Darby Allin friggin' base jumping off of bridges like it's nothing. And Gronk is like, oh, I don't know. It's really far. That looks like a really hard pillow. Like, dude, my God, that was so funny to me how he just couldn't do it. Grow some balls, Gronk. The F. John Cena is the leader. That's crazy. Did Boris Zukov come back tonight? Yes, he did. Boris Zukov, he's been back for a while. He's been backstage because that's why Braun shaved his head. He goes, ooh, I like that look. And he did it. Boris Zukov had one of the biggest heads. Remember when Taker or Rock used to make fun of Undertaker for having a 33-pound head? Boris has a 63-pound head. It's enormous. It's huge. Hey, I like that idea too, Madeline. She's pitching an idea of a female leader of Retribution. Sure, there's women in there. And like we've seen Mia Yim. Probably one of them is going to be Vanessa Bourne. There's talk about Chelsea Green as well. Although Chelsea, I just don't think that's for her. She's got too much of a different gimmick. She can do so much more, just based on her look and everything. She doesn't need to be that ass kicker, wearing a mask and everything. Like, get her away from that. So even though if she's one of the women in there attacking, I hope she's not going to be one of the revealed members. But she hasn't been on TV in a while either, so it makes sense that she would definitely be one of them. But I think they should try to make her singles. I can see a feud between her and like Peyton Royce or something like that. He wouldn't have broke his Gronk face. He landed it's so easy. Even if he landed face down, he wouldn't have broke his Gronk face. God, he just needs to suck it up, man. I just laughed so hard at that. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is so scary about that? Like, I don't like doing crazy stuff either. I wouldn't jump off my roof or anything, but it's so small. It's just a small drop. Anybody could do that. Be no different than bouncing around in a bounce house or a bouncy castle or something. It's like easy. Damn, Gronk. I pitched Ronda Rousey. I said Ronda Rousey is a leader of Retribution a couple of weeks ago. I like that idea because she might have, that might make storyline sense because right at the end there before she left and lost at WrestleMania, she was talking all types of smack to the fans. Like, you guys know it's fake, right? And all that. She seemed like genuinely ready to vent out that anger because she's had to suck it up this whole time. She's come into a world that has very, very crazy fans. We've seen that since last night, since Roman Reigns, oh my God, what a match, and everybody fucking tears their fucking hair out and loses their shit. So she got fed up with that. She called everybody out for it. And for her to come back and kind of get retribution on a business and a fan base that treated her like garbage. I was there at Survivor Series. I was there when she was in the ring with Charlotte, who everybody hated and everybody hates and complains about, just like they do Roman Reigns and John Cena. And then for some reason, Charlotte snaps and turns heel in the match and starts just destroying her with kendo sticks. And the fans cheer it. I was right there. I was looking around like, what is wrong with you people? You constantly bitch about this woman every single day on social media. Here she is wearing out Ronda Rousey with his kendo stick, and you're loving it? I don't think the fans know what the hell they want. I don't even think they know when their own damn birthday is. And that was really funny to me. So I think if Ronda comes back kind of with that attitude and that chip on her shoulder like she had prior to her leaving, and be the leader of Retribution, sure. Why not? You know what else I'd like to see with Ronda if she did come back in? I'd like to see Heyman build a stable and get a girl. We talked about that when he was with Brock. Like, he should get Ronda, especially when she turned heel. I'm like, oh man, she should be a Heyman girl. That would be great. So I would love if Ronda ever comes back, for her to link up with Heyman, and he can talk for her and shit like that. Maybe add Shayna Baszler to the group or something. I don't know. I really hope the Hacker is leading Retribution. That's what I hope. That maybe, they might do it that way. We might finally get, like, the first type of reveal we get will be members. Finally, we get a hood taken off, and then the announcer can be like, oh my God, that's so-and-so or whatever. And then we'll get their identities first, they'll do that for a while, and then they'll make it clear that they are answering to somebody. There is a higher power, or there is a leader, or an exalted one, or what other names do they have? What other leader reveals do we have? Shit like that. And then it turns out to be the hacker, which then is like another reveal. Oh, it's the hacker, but then you don't reveal the hacker. So you reveal the members first, then you're going to reveal the leader, which is revealed to be the hacker, but you don't know who the hacker is yet, and you drag it on. It might be until WrestleMania, until that fucker takes his hood off. So you could do that, and I hope they do. I think the hacker being involved here makes the most storyline sense. They went through all that trouble to do all those vignettes for that hacker spying on everybody, and now you got a bunch of guys coming in, kind of dressed like him, kicking everybody's ass. You know, that would make sense too. The Shane idea makes sense. I like the Shane idea, you know, with him claiming that his dad gave everything to Hunter, and he's here to take it back and take over the company from two different directions by building his a team of killers in Raw Underground and having the masked minions run around wreaking havoc, and he's just waiting for the right time for WWE to be as unstable as possible, and then boom, he swoops in and takes over. That makes a lot of sense. So something similar, could make sense with that angle. I'd like to see it. And then we got to talk about once the hacker is revealed after that, and they stretch that out, then it could be CM Punk. Mustafa Ali would be good too. And as much as we want that for Mustafa Ali, here's one concern I have, because we all want Mustafa Ali to do something more than eat salad and catering, which is what he's doing right now. So I don't want to say I don't want him to be the leader of Retribution, because I want something for him to do meaningful on TV, storyline-wise. So the leader of Retribution would be a pretty big thing for them to give to him. But from what we've seen of Retribution, we are criticizing it heavily. So do we want him attached to that? So far it sucks. So far it's corny and weird and cringy and shit. And it definitely makes you chuckle more than it makes you scared type of thing. So if he's just revealed to be the hacker or whatever, I can see fans struggling to get behind that, because we all know what he can do in the ring. And he's a great promo. He's a great talker, but can he pull off that, that dark, ominous type of character? And look at the style he wrestles. If he's a guy that's methodically like taking things over, but then he's going out there throwing 360 flips everywhere and shit, it just doesn't match up, I don't think. But I also think we should give him a chance, because there's been plenty of times where I've thought wrestlers wouldn't be good in a role, and not only were they good in it, they were a million times better than I thought they would be. So I'm wrong on that shit all the time. So if they give that to Ali, I'll be the first one to support it. But based on everything else we've seen with the Retribution stuff, it's been a little weird, throwing bricks through windows and then running away. It's kids. They're all kids. They're like high school kids, just raising hell in their neighborhood. I used to do that shit. We used to run around and knock on people's doors and hide in the bushes and laugh when they came out. Things like that. Like, that's what it feels like they're doing. I was a master at that stuff, man. Ringing doorbells. Ring and run. We used to call it. And then we would get super brave. Like, sometimes we wouldn't, because we'd ring and then run like 2 houses down and hide in the ditch and look or whatever. But sometimes we'd get real brave and like just hide right next to them, like in the bushes. Like, that's just the shit kids did in the 80s, We didn't mean any harm. We were just off goofing off. So that's what Retribution feels like to me. It feels like the kids I grew up with in my neighborhood. We'd go out at night in the Christmas season and we wouldn't vandalize anything. We just mess with people. We would go and like unhook all their Christmas lights. They'd have all in their yard and shit. So they'd be like in their house watching TV, and they see their lights go out, and they're like, what the fuck? And we just mess with them, just watch them come out and try to figure it out. Like, it was fun. Like, we're just mischief. And that's all that it feels like Retribution is doing. They're doing a little bit of damage. We didn't beat anybody up and cut any ropes up with chainsaws, but they seem more mischievous than they do like legitimate threats. Oh shit, get the hell out of here. They could kill us type of thing. They don't give me that vibe. I feel like if one WWE star big enough, like if they try, like I said, if they tried to attack Roman or something like that, or even Samoa Joe, they'd whip all their asses. So I don't know. I'm not sold on Retribution yet. So whoever the leader is needs to help them and needs to elevate them. And if it's not a big name or a big surprise, I don't know if Ali would be enough to make the whole thing worth watching. I don't know. But I want him to succeed, man. We're sick and tired of watching him sit there do nothing. It's time, man. Joey G, appreciate the $2. Holy crap, are my likes low? Can you guys do me a favor and smash the thumbs up button for me? Get these up. Joey G, have I ever watched The Office? Yeah, watched The Office a little bit. Not religiously, though. I have friends, it's their favorite show. I've never watched it in order. Every time that I have watched it, I have laughed, but never got hooked on it. But I like The Office. I respect it, even though I'm not that familiar with it. That is true. It's funny how they stopped destroying the arena after the Thunderdome, after they moved to the Thunderdome. Yeah, they don't want to be smashing those screens with baseball bats and stuff. That's expensive stuff. I think, though, what would be cool is if it does turn out to be the hacker that's behind Retribution, if the hacker hacked in to the Thunderdome and, changed all the screens, to something, or spelled out a message on the screens or whatever, just interrupted all the fans. And it would be even cooler if they could figure out a way. I haven't been on the Thunderdome yet, so I don't know when you're on the Thunderdome what you're looking at on your screen. But if they could figure out a way to not only hack the screens, hack the viewer. Like whatever that message shows up on the screen, it on the LEDs in the arena, it shows up on the computer screen of the Thunderdome watcher. Like just blacks out their whole screen and like shows up. Wouldn't that be cool? I think that would be awesome. Something like that. I think they have to play with at some point. I want to put fans on the ring posts. The ring posts are all LED. Just put like 3 fans stacked on top of each other on the ring post. I think that'd be funny. Why not? It's COVID. Trevor, we talked about the Lesnar stuff earlier on. I do not think he's going to AEW, but I think AEW would be silly not to at least make a play for him. But WWE and Vince would not let this shit expire if he really thought there was a chance. He's, Brock can now leverage himself, though, and if AEW ever does make an offer, he can just call Vince and be like, hey, here's what they want to give me. And Vince is like, well, I got to double it. Come back, We talked about that because Vince got all bent out of shape about Taker just appearing at StarCast, which wasn't even it's not like he was on AEW or on a pay-per-view or anything like that. And he freaked and forced Taker to come in and say, let's get this contract worked out. You are not going over there type of thing. And, maybe he feels the same way with Brock. But, at the same time, Brock in the past couple of years, WWE could survive without Brock. I mean, he's taken some losses. There are plenty of people in that company now that have had victories over him. Clean ones. Seth has had a couple. Mcintyre now. I suppose you could count Goldberg if he does come back in and shit like that. So, they've done enough. Brock put enough people over to where, I don't think he decimated the roster and left. The level of his star and how tough and strong that character is, that really helped, bring other guys up. Because when you beat Brock, you beat Brock clean, that is a big deal. Whether you're in the Performance Center or in front of 80,000 people, beating Brock is big. And Brock's taken some losses. He's taken a lot in the last couple of years. A couple from Seth, from Drew, like I said. And I think they'll be fine, without him. But if there's a chance he's going to go over to AEW, WWE probably doesn't want that because that's going to, there's only a few names in the business that can really be ratings game changers. And I think if Brock is going head-to-head with NXT, AEW is going to be beating NXT a lot more than they already are in the ratings. So I don't see that happening. I just don't. I think it's more possible that maybe Mauro Ranallo turns up there one day. Maybe not soon because he's doing the activist stuff. And maybe even Renee Young comes in for a cup of coffee or at least appears over there. But Brock would be a tough thing to pull off. But if I'm Tony, if I'm Mr. Khan, I'm calling the beast. I'm ringing the beast up. He's coming alone, though. He ain't going to have Heyman with him. Oh, what if JBL kind of reverts back into his APA persona and tries to manage a tag team? I could be into that. I think that would have to be a tag team that's built, that's not already established. Although, Authors of Pain. Authors of Pain was great with Paul Ellering. And I remember when they split from him, people freaked out, and I remember defending it because I didn't like it any more than anybody else did. I thought Paul Ellering was great with them, but I also thought Ellering was kind of hanging around in NXT. And for him to now join them on the road didn't seem like something that he would even want to do or whatever, so I didn't really care that they split. But they were never the same after that. So if they have if they come across some more guidance, they might join Seth again. I don't know. But if they come back and they've got JBL with them there, that might be a little bit better fit. Damn, imagine AOP and Keith Lee all in the same faction. Holy crap. Jesus. Could Retribution become so bad it's good? Maybe. There are some things like that. I think Breezango was like that. Matt Hardy was like that, or Broken Matt. R-Truth. What am I saying? R-Truth's never been bad. He's always been awesome. He's the man. Oh, I'm completely sold on Keith Lee. I've seen everything I need to see out of Keith Lee. We know what he can do. We've been watching him for a couple of years now, so I don't know what's left to sell. I get the part about his promos. I talked about that earlier. I'm not sure what's going on with his promo style there. Why he's got that soft-spoken voice. But, you know, he doesn't really... I mean, cutting better promos isn't going to hurt him. I'll totally admit that, but I don't think it's something that, you know, that should stop him from winning titles. I mean, Keith Lee is awesome. Very impressive. Oh, bringing in Ron Simmons with JBL to try to find maybe a new APA. I already pitched an idea for the new Iconics, so I don't know if they can get Brittany Aguilera in there to join Billie Kay. We can have the new Iconics, and if you try to make a new APA, you got a lot of guys you can pick from. I would almost say Sheamus, but I feel like he's too much of a veteran by now, just because of the bar stuff with Jeff Hardy. But yeah, they can find just two random dudes that WWE's just, you know, not doing anything with, and there's a litany of them on both brands. I'd be into that. Yeah, CM Punk could be the leader of Retribution, but I think that would have to be something revealed next year type of thing. CM Punk is the one exception. I know everything that WWE or wrestling does in general would be better with fans, but there are a couple of things that I think you absolutely must wait for, and CM Punk is one of them in terms of having fans back in the arena and have him return or something. I think he's thrown out like an early dollar amount that he wouldn't even consider coming back to any wrestling company unless they're, you know, the starting negotiation amount is like $20 million. So it just depends on, you know, if they want to pay that or not. I mean, that's like, what do those fighters get? Like, what does Conor McGregor? He probably gets more than that. He probably gets like $100 million or something. But $20 million for a wrestling match, that's like crazy. Maybe he's thinking $20 million a year. I don't know. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you're drinking Stella's. Hey, I've got these new ones. Stella Solstice Lagers. They're not bad. They're easy to drink. But yeah, I'm normally drinking the regular Stellas, but I like these just fine. I think Billy and Peyton definitely need to be drafted away from each other. Although, since Peyton threw her in the Raw Underground, you got to wonder if they're going to have a match first. And then maybe like a loser leaves town. That might be a way to get Billy a little bit over because we're all expecting her to be the Jannetty. But what if you do a loser leaves town with Peyton and Billy beats her? And then Peyton leaves and she's got to go to SmackDown or whatever or something like that. And she can work over there and then Billy can stay, you know, and Peyton will obviously be, you know, the star here, the one that they're going to make or try to make anyway. But I think Billy's got a chance. I kind of hope she survives just for... I'm putting myself in Peyton Royce's shoes. You know, this is my childhood friend, and we got into wrestling together, and then we became a tag team, and we got signed together. We made it through developmental together. They called us up to the main roster together, you know, and then it's found out, you know, that I'm liked better. They want to split us up, and then I go on to do big things, and they release him. I'd feel guilty as shit about that. So I would want him to succeed too. So I'm hoping that they at least have plans for both of them, you know, and they're not just focusing all their attention on Peyton and then they just forget about Billy. Because that would suck. And it's happened a lot in tag team wrestling. What's going on, Adam? Uncle Greg in the house. Tessa Blanchard in Retribution. Sure. But why does she need Retribution? I'm still surprised she's not in AEW. I mean, if Tully is making a faction now, which it seems like he is, with FTR and Sean Spears, and now you bring a woman. We've talked about that. I'd like to see more of that. We haven't seen much of that, like, ever, have we? Have we ever seen a faction that's had female wrestlers in it, along with the males? Do the Holly Cousins count? Team Extreme? Who else? But I'm talking like a faction, like an actual stable. We've seen plenty of women in stables, like Miss Elizabeth and Woman was in, you know, the Four Horsemen and shit. But like actual women as members of the faction. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Paul Heyman do that. If JBL starts a faction, I'd like to see him do that. I'm glad that there's women involved in the Raw Underground, and it definitely is guaranteed that we're going to get women in Retribution. So if Tully brought in his daughter to join FTR and Shawn Spears, why not? That would be cool. And boy, would that bring some much needed help to AEW's women's division. I mean, I know I've heard that they don't have any interest in her, but why not? I'd bring her in, man, if I'm AEW. You need all the help you can get there. And Thunder Rosa has definitely helped, but it's going to take more than that. So get Tessa in there. She'd be a big fish. She'd be a shark in a fishbowl in AEW, where in WWE, she'd just be another good wrestler that they have a huge amount of, you know? China and DX, thank you. Sanity, thank you. All right, so it's not that rare. Yeah, Sanity. Man, how WWE fucked them up, didn't they? Jesus Christ. That's probably one of the biggest blunders ever. They were over, man. And they brought up Nikki. Like, they broke her off from that. Like, that's what made her so great. She's out there crazy, pulling her hair out and looking all nuts, you know? And then she's recovered a little bit. The alliance with Alexa grew on me when I hated it at first. But still, man. Yeah, China's a good one. Yeah, because she was wrestling. She was having matches when she was in DX and stuff, right? Maybe a little. Billy could become like Christian. That wouldn't be bad, because Christian, I still believe, is a Hall of Famer. Christian's a world champion. But yeah, it's going to be Peyton is the Shawn and the Edge, and Billy is the Jannetty and the Christian, and even the Neidhart. You know, like when Brett and Anvil split up, they split up twice. But that second time, it was clear that Brett's going on to singles, and Anvil, you'll be lucky to keep your job type of thing. So I don't want to see that for Billie Kay, even though she's obnoxiously annoying. Still don't want her to get fired or released. Give her a gimmick. Make use out of that annoying voice of hers. Do something with it. Have her come out with an album like Jillian Hall did. Totally into that. Cruise over here. Oh, we got a pretty decent audience. Feels like we're getting back to the old days in here of like a normal-sized audience, where a couple months ago it wasn't looking so good. Anthony, why do you keep asking me to read your comments? What's wrong with you? Do I think that Vince McMahon's pettiness and refusing to re-sign wrestlers that he feels wronged him could be affecting the overall product of Raw or SmackDown? No, not at all. Who the hell has Vince ever refused to re-sign? One guy, Randy Savage. That's it. Everybody's come back. Anybody that's wrong, and Lex Luger, anybody that's wronged him, he's brought back. I don't think Vince has that. I think there's plenty of petty things and out-of-touch things about Vince McMahon, but Vince is business, first and foremost. And there's been plenty of wrestlers that he could look back on and say, they did me wrong, and he brought them all back. Kurt Angle, is another guy. Guys like that. Vince has got a lot of negative qualities. That's not one of them. I don't think Vince really has pettiness. Even Jeff Jarrett was brought back. He fired him. G, double G, double O, double N, double E. Gone. Even brought him back. I think Vince will put business before pettiness. But there are things about Vince, like him being a dumbass, him being out of touch, him being a maniac, set in his own ways, that type of thing. Totally. Those are all very large negative qualities for Vince, but that particular one, no, not at all. Yeah, Christian's in the TNA Hall of Fame. Everybody, all the Hall of Famers are in WWE. Didn't they put Sting in? They put Abyss in. Did they put? I don't think they can put AJ in. I think that would be a nice thing for WWE to do. At this point, is TNA any sort of threat to WWE? No, impacts nothing. So, I would love to see WWE, tell AJ, don't wrestle, but you can go make an appearance there. Let him put you in the Hall of Fame or something. That might be good. Or come out for a special anniversary show and cut a promo or something. I wish they'd let him do that. I think that would be cool. Go out there and, reunite with his with the Good Brothers, Oh, yeah. Rick Rude would have been a tough one. Because Rick at that point was pretty much out of the WWE or out of wrestling. He couldn't wrestle anymore. And I know he was training for a comeback a little bit there. He might have been able to get back in the ring, but even in WCW, he was just doing the same thing. So Rick would have had to been brought back to maybe be the leader of a faction or something like that. By then, DX was no more, so it's not like he could return to that. So if they brought him back, there would have to be a reason. But that one might be up there with the Luger thing and the Savage thing. That's tough, because honestly, what Rude did was worse than Luger. Luger just left. Luger showed up on the first Nitro. He misled them a little bit and all that, but Rude showed up. I mean, when he went to Nitro on that taped Raw, and he was on both shows, and he just exposed everything. That's gonna be tough, But maybe Vince also looks at it like, Vince, I think, does admit doesn't admit he's completely wrong, but he admits that what he did to Brett was, effed up, and so he could understand why some wrestlers would get pissed. Foley didn't come to work that next day, and Crush left and joined WCW. Rude left, and there's a lot of pissed off people. So maybe he's like, okay, I understand. I did it. I did it to myself. Rude would have stayed with me had I not screwed over his friend. So maybe Vince could look at it like that. But that's a tough one, because that was a pretty big deal, man. I'll never forget that shit. I remember watching. Because I told you guys this. I recorded Raw every week. So a lot of times on those Raw tapes, you can see me flipping, because I'll flip back to TNT and watch Nitro for a second, like if it's a Raw commercial. And I remember flipping over to, you can probably see it. If I dug it out, you can probably see me. If I dug out the original recording of that Monday Night Raw, you can see me flipping to Nitro, being like, holy shit, Rude's on Nitro. I don't think their segments are at the same time, because I'm pretty sure Rude opened the show, I think, on Nitro or whatever. That was just like so huge. And I remember being like, oh my God. I saw that happen in real time, man. That was crazy. Bring back WWF New York so we can read their Yelp reviews. I talked a lot about WWF New York in my SummerSlam 20th anniversary review for the year 2000, because they cut away to that a couple times. I'm like, I remember that. And that's one almost like a bucket list thing I wish I would have done, is go up there and just look at it, because they would always like have the wide shot, during pay-per-views. They have the huge banner up, and it went up 50 stories, it seemed like. And I'm like, my God, right in the heart of Times Square. WCW was screwed. WWE was everywhere, and they were just killing them at that time. But I think that was a crazy rent. I know they had some embezzlement. I think one of the managers took some money. The rent there was astronomical. They lost money from the. I don't think they ever turned a profit in that place. It's impossible. You can't sell chicken wings and pay a $200,000 per month rent. It's impossible. So it didn't last. That's a shame, but still have fond memories of that. The Yelp reviews. Can you imagine? Did they have shit? Did you guys ever go? Did they have stuff on the menu named after like wrestlers? Like my Edge and Christian Edamame or something. I don't know. Like little names like that. You think Brock is going to UFC to fight Bones Jones? Yeah, Bones Jones called him out a couple times, right? Can they fight? How big is he? They seem in different weight classes, but I don't know. I don't know shit about UFC. I remember when he got in the ring and he shoved DC. That was cool. I thought we might get that. Oh, wow. You went there as a kid, living in New York? Luger worked for WWE backstage back in 2011. He joined them working on the wellness policy. Okay, well, by 2011, I'm talking about like bringing him back as a wrestler. He wouldn't have been wrestling at that point. He was in pretty bad shape. He's been in pretty bad shape for the past 10 years. So I don't think he could have been wrestling. And that's good. And even Savage. Savage came back. I remember right before he died, he was on that figure commercial. And I remember like the kid in me, because you guys all know who've been following this channel forever. You know my two favorite wrestlers, Bret Hart, number 1, Randy Savage, number 2. So when I saw him on that, I was like, oh, he's coming back. Like, I'm like, that's the baby step. It's like Goldberg and Sting with the video game. It's like the same thing. And the first thought I had, I'm like, he is back on a WWE commercial. Cut a promo. And oh, yeah. And here's my figure. And come get him. He had the gray beard and everything. I'm like, this is it. This is the beginning. This is the first step to getting him into the door and getting him in the Hall of Fame. And he passed away. So I feel like Savage would have been there. But just as a Hall of Fame type of thing. Patched up with Vince. A couple of DVD documentaries type of thing, that sort of thing. It's such a shame we didn't get that. But I felt like that was the beginning of it, was when he did that commercial in 2011. So everybody comes around, but like bringing them back in as wrestlers, that's Vince doesn't have that type of pettiness. He'll do whatever it takes. If he thinks it's going to do business, he'll bring you in. He doesn't care. So Vince can be a prick, but not to that extent. I remember the Warriors debut as well. Might have been one of those other rare weeks that WCW did win in the ratings, because after they lost that Vince Austin segment on Raw for the first time in 83 weeks or whatever. Then they had a couple of other victories when Goldberg won the title, when the Horsemen reunited, and I'm pretty sure when Warrior showed up, they did a better rating that night. But they were a couple months after that. I don't think they won again. I'm interested to see, or to read up, or research, or look up, I should say, what the last rating, what week they won last. Had to have been 98, late 98. From my memory, who had the biggest problems with Vince? Nails. Nails would be first on the list. I'd probably say Nails there. A lot of guys left. Bruno would be another guy. Vince and Bruno really struggled there. Triple H, if it weren't for him, we wouldn't have got Bruno in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, so probably Nails. Bruno had a really bad relationship with Vince. Ultimate Warrior is another guy. Hogan, even to an extent. There's plenty of disagreements there. Jake Roberts, forced Vince to let him out of the WWE. Brett punched him out, got screwed. Rick Rude showed up on 2 shows. Luger showed up on the first Nitro. Jarrett held him up for money too and did that whole thing in 99 when he left. Vince Russo is another guy that would be on that list. Although Russo came back. Russo came back in 2002 for like a day. It was on WWF.com. I remember seeing it. Vince Russo returns. They hired him back. I can't remember the story as if he ever actually got backstage and started working and actually worked behind the scenes for like a week, but it was so incredibly short-lived. They either changed their mind and didn't bring him in, or he was there for like a week and then it was done. But even he was brought back, and what him and Ferrara did was fucked up. And he brought him back like 3 years later. That's crazy. Now Vince Russo falls over himself, bends over backwards to try to get WWE's attention any chance he can get for his podcast and on Twitter, tagging Vince McMahon and Triple H and everybody. Let me come in, bro. Let me come in for just 1 week and I'll help you. I'll fix your show. I'm like, don't let this fucker back. Don't let him in. Don't even let him in Florida. Just keep him away from everything, for God's sakes. That he insists, oh, bro, I'll fix everything. It's me. I can just never do everything great. He should know all those years working next to Vince McMahon that it ain't that easy. You can't just come in. It's not like Vince is going to be like, okay, Russo, you take over. This is yours now. Aside from that, like, Russo's got to be crazy to think anything like that would ever even work. But he's desperate for the attention now. We're back in 2002. I guess they just agreed that it probably wasn't going to be a good idea. So he went on and fucked up TNA instead. Thanks, Vince. Billy Graham. That's another one. Yeah, Billy Graham is a piece of shit. And that's one instance where I'm 100% on Vince's side. I cannot stand Billy Graham. He's a fucking asshole. And he says some pretty horrible things. WWE should bring back Jack Tunney. Man, I missed Tunney. He was the best. You knew. A lot of fans have no clue and recollection of Jack Tunney. But when Jack Tunney made an appearance, shit was going down. He didn't just show up to cut a stupid promo. When he was on TV, he had an announcement to make. That was when the authority figure was handled so much better. Just bring them out when you need to. Where on TV, it's like you needed for so many years across all promotions, it's like you needed a commissioner or a general manager on the show every week. No, you don't. So just bring in the president to make a decision or make a ruling here or there when you need it. And Jack Tunney, all the years he was in WWE as that character, as the president, I'd say 12 times he appeared on TV. Maybe even less than that. Like, it was not much. He'd handle the big contract signing, like the Warrior and Hogan and the Andre and Hogan, I think he even did. He announced the Tuesday in Texas. He had a couple of other... he suspended Danny Davis, shit like that. Like, it was very rare when he was there. But when it was there, it was important, and it meant something, and you paid attention. Because if Jack Tunney's got something to say, you need to shut your cake hole. Listen to the man. Where years later, fast forward 30 years past this, you don't have to listen to anything an authority figure says, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. It's a mess. No, Tunney never took a bump. Not that I remember. Not in WWE. As the president, no. I mean, he was only at ringside a couple of times. The only times I've ever remember Tunney being at ringside. He wasn't even at ringside at WrestleMania 94, like when they crowned a new champion. He was only ringside for Danny Davis. He came out to the ring and suspended Danny Davis for life. And he was at ringside for the Hogan and Undertaker match at Tuesday in Texas, because the chicanery and the shenanigans that went down at Survivor Series, he wanted to be there in person type of thing. Those are the only 2 times I can remember. He might have... Did he come in the ring for the Royal Rumble in 94? He might have. That had to have been his final year as commissioner, was 94. Maybe. I don't remember. But yeah, twice, 3 times at the most. He was even at ringside. No, I don't think Jim Cornette is way past out of touch. Jim Cornette is just focused on literally lashing out at every person he can possibly get his hands on, and he's very, very anti-AEW, and that's his shtick now, which sucks because he's such a wealth of knowledge in his wrestling brain, to focus all of his energy on having a war with people that he shouldn't even care exist. He ain't right in the head. For a guy that hates Trump so much, he's an awful lot like him. It's very, very strange. Just lashing out, can't handle criticism, insecure, all that stuff. Don't understand him. He's way smarter than that. Oh, Tunney was there for the signing at the first Rumble. Madeline, what are you talking about? Bischoff getting on Raw? Do I know the story behind how they got Bischoff on the show? That goes back to the comment that the gentleman made earlier about Vince's pettiness. If he had a reason to be petty against anybody, it would be Eric Bischoff. Vince wanted to kill him during the Monday Night Wars. I, as a wrestling fan, wanted to kill Eric Bischoff because I was a fanboy of WWE. So when I saw Bischoff giving away the results and shit, I wanted to climb through the computer screen and beat the shit out of him. So the fact that him and Vince were able to come together, and Vince did the right thing. He knows that Bischoff is a character. He's somebody that they could use. And despite their history, despite their bad blood, call him up, have a conversation with him, see if you can work together. Put everything aside, work together as professionals. It's all about business, and that's what Vince is like. Vince is about business. If he'll make money with somebody, he doesn't care most of the time. Unless you're Bruno or Billy Graham or Macho Man or Luger or somebody, he's going to, he's open to it. So, Bischoff was a big one. When they brought him in, that was a pretty big deal. Like, holy crap. They're bringing in Bischoff, and I thought Bischoff was a fantastic Raw general manager for the couple of years there. He did great. I was sad to see him go. I thought he'd be back. I mean, we've seen him back occasionally, poking his head in and stuff, but I thought he'd be back in that role. I wanted to see him back in that role, and he wasn't. I like Bischoff. Good dude. Yeah, but I assume that was just, Vince saying, or I don't know if Vince was, the idea was pitched to him, but I remember back, there's a good DVD, Madeline, check it out. You can probably find it on the network. Confidential. I've got it. It's like the first couple of seasons of Confidential. One of those episodes was on that, and they talked about how there was a lot of wrestlers, because you think there was a lot of guys that had heat with them. Big Show was there. Jericho was there. Guerrero was there. Booker T. Some other guys that, were a little uncomfortable. Ric Flair is another one that had a ton of heat with Bischoff. So there were some guys that didn't care, but there were some guys, when you hear about some of the stories that went down with like Jericho and Guerrero and Rick and guys like that, for Bischoff now to come in, he said, he goes, nobody's like outwardly tried to go out of their way to tell me they hate my guts or whatever. They've been mostly supportive. And they also had to remember that Bischoff was coming in as a on-screen talent. He's not involved any way in the creative process. He's not there to screw up their pushes or cause any problems, because he's there as a character, even though he's a former executive and a guy that's used to writing TV and being a part of that process. He wasn't being brought in for that until last year when he was supposed to head up Raw. Or was it SmackDown? I think it was SmackDown. But yeah, they should have brought Bischoff in more than they did, and maybe even had him become the commissioner again and reprise his role. I think that would have been fun. He was a good evil commissioner. Better evil referee, Danny Davis or Nick Patrick? Danny Davis. I was never a Nick Patrick fan. Didn't like him. You know what I always hated about WCW referees, and he was the worst of all of them? They count funny. You notice that? Like when Nick Patrick would like lay down on the mat, he would do this funny little floppy thing with his arm. And sometimes, like unlike in WWE where Earl would just slap the shit out of the mat, their 1, 2, 3 counts, they didn't have a lot of dramatic effect to them because they counted funny. Sometimes they didn't even smack the mat very hard. And another thing that I always thought was weird about WCW matches, if you go back and watch, after somebody won, you know when the referee calls for the bell, you're supposed to call for the timekeeper to ring the bell, but they would always point to the hard cam. Little Mark Curtis do the same thing. Somebody would tap out and you just start going like this, right to the hard cam. I'm like, why are you telling the hard cam to ring the bell? Bell's on the outside of the ring, you dumbass. So I never understood that on WCW TV, why. I guess it was just for the audience experience at home. But why is the referee pointing to the camera to ring the bell? I always thought that was so dumb. They all did it. Pee Wee Anderson, Curtis, and Patrick, and all those guys, and Silverman, Billy Silverman, and what was the other guy's name? What was the heavier guy's name? Forgot him. I used to know all those WCW referees. That annoyed me. No, the Eugene character would not work today. The Eugene character did not work in 2004. But Nick Dinsmore did great with the part. He very much like Goldust, like Dustin doing, he made that shit work, even though it was highly offensive, and then as it evolved a little bit more, I think even WWE tried to step away from the fact that he's like mentally challenged, and they still kept the Eugene character, but they kind of stopped harping on that so much. So they were trying to kind of get away from it, and of course Nick did such a good job with the character. He was very good at playing like kind of a confused, kind of out of his mind type of guy. And whenever he would get mad, he could have some good matches. And dude was a hell of a wrestler. And probably my biggest disappointment with the Eugene character is that I thought they were onto something with the Triple H stuff because Triple H was like his favorite, one of my favorite segments ever. And you guys got to help me which Raw it was because I have no recollection. There's some sort of segment where The Rock comes back. When Eugene is being messed with somebody, maybe by the coach or something like that, The Rock comes back and he really freaks out and Rock brings him down to the ring. Rock hadn't been back in a while, so the crowd's shitting their pants. And, Rock's cutting his promo, and then he asks Eugene who his favorite wrestler is, and he goes, Triple H! And he's expecting him to say Rock, and he says Triple H, and Rock kind of looks at him, and the fans pop or whatever. Like, that was all fun. And then when Triple H turned on him and beat him up, and then like attacked Regal, who I think was his friend as well, or something like that, I thought they were headed for some big, awesome match at SummerSlam that was going to get bloody, and we were going to see this new Eugene, and it might be used as a vehicle to shed this skin of this character, and Eugene would like come out of it. I had so many ideas for the SummerSlam match. Was that 2004 with the Eugene thing? Because after what he did and all the horrible things that Triple H had done to this poor kid that just idolizes him, and for him to turn on him like that, I would have loved to see like Eugene like snap out of it and just beat the crap out of Triple H, beat him at SummerSlam, and then I don't know if it would make much sense for him just to not be that character anymore, but just be different and like come out of that shell. And now he's means business. Now he wants to chase championship titles, things like that. But instead, and I thought we'd see a lot of blood because there was some heat there. That match should have been in Hell in a Cell based on the build to that. So the fact that it was just kind of a basic match, no blood, no crazy stuff. I'm pretty sure Triple H just pedigreed him and pinned him. It was a disappointment. That was their chance to, do something with Eugene. They never did. And honestly, maybe it was for the best. That was so stupid. They would do that. And plus, a lot of people forget he was billed as Eric Bischoff's nephew. So really, he was involved. He was in the Bischoff family. And Bischoff had gotten him the job because his sister made him or something like that. So a little weird, poor taste, but that's 2004. That seemed more something that they would do in like 98 and stuff. We remember the nickname they had for Kane, not the Big Red Machine, but the Big Red other thing. They used to say that all the time on TV, like it was nothing. Crazy times, man. Crazy times. Anyway, I think I need to get out of here. I've been streaming for 2 hours. I ate the Strand, 630 people in the chat. Pretty cool. Thanks for being here tonight. It's been a fun 4 days of streaming. Man, we've been up here. You guys have had me a grand total of about 10 hours in the last 4 days. So that is a lot. And the next time you get me is Thursday afternoon, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We'll be up here to live stream All Out predictions. And we'll talk about whoever the new NXT champion is because we have that match coming up tomorrow night. And just as a reminder, I have to work tomorrow, so I'm not going to be home to watch this and live tweet. So follow me on Twitter, shoot me some updates. I'm going to be eyeballing my phone, and I'm going to try to do my best to at least watch the finish of the match if I can. And then on Thursday, I will offer all of my thoughts on that and who the new champion is and that sort of thing. We'll talk about that on Thursday along with All Out predictions. And then we'll be up here next weekend for the pay-per-view. So you guys take care. Appreciate everything. Thanks for hanging out. And I'll catch you on Thursday afternoon. Peace.